The emergency sirens howled across Caldara Prime, echoing through the obsidian towers that pierced the saffron sky. Council Overseer Tharnes moved quickly, his 8 legs scuttling over the crystalline floor of the high spire as he rushed to the assembly hall. His green chitin had turned a dusky hue, an involuntary biological reaction to severe anxiety. The last time the Unified Galactic Assembly had been summoned under emergency protocol was centuries ago during the Xyrix Cataclysm. But this was far worse. THARN is entered the Great Convocation Hall, where envoys from 47 different civilizations were gathering in solemn dread. The chamber was a marvel of xenotechnical design, with environments tailored to each species' biology. Amphibious delegates floated in nutrient tanks, avian representatives perched on grav-stabilized roosts, and gaseous lifeforms shimmered in containment fields. A low hum of overlapping languages, most anxious, filled the air until Tharnes spoke. His voice carried by the hall's translation lattice. "We are facing a crisis that threatens the very stability of our galactic sector." Military strategist Gorval stepped forward, his armored exosuit gleaming with black insignia, a war mark of his species, the Durakan. Once feared enemies of the Assembly, they had long since become its protectors. Gorval's thick mandibles clicked with tension. "The energy signature is unprecedented," Gorval rumbled. "Our sensors have confirmed it multiple times. A single vessel, nearly 12 kilometers in length, is approaching from the outer fringe. Its energy output surpasses that of all our fleets combined." A stunned silence fell. The Athari envoy, a translucent cephalopod, turned a sickly gray, a universal sign of dread. The insectoid Veshlari clattered their limbs in dismay. Even the iron-willed Yornian champions shifted uneasily. "How can such a thing exist?" cried Delegate Hernus of the Altari Dominion. "Our largest carriers barely span a kilometer." "What civilization constructs a ship of that magnitude?" Gorval activated the central holodisplay. The image that materialized drained the room of all noise. The ship was sleek, grim, and unmistakably designed for battle, lined with weapon emplacements, shield nodes, and armor so dense it looked like the core of a collapsed star. "It hails from Sector Thalos," Gorval continued. "Our archives mark it as uninhabited, but clearly our data was wrong. This isn't a colony ship, it's a fortress. A mobile siege engine." Elder Isaria of the Oracles of Aven glided forward in her thought throne, her voice barely above a whisper. "The old prophecies speak of such things, world eaters, flame ships, behemoths that can tear suns apart. We thought those were myths." "What do we know about the Thalosians?" asked Premier Jalan of the Cerelian bloc. "Any intelligence on their biology or culture?" Data Caster Velmi, a many-eyed Altheric researcher, checked her tablet. Little to nothing. The region was thought barren, only minor microbial life had been catalogued. "Could they be refugees?" offered the Athari representative, pulsing. Softly, "Perhaps they built this ship to save their species?" Gorval shook his head. "Too many weapons. Too many systems dedicated to offense and tactical suppression. This isn't an ark. It's a war platform." The chamber erupted. Dozens of species shouted in different dialects as translators struggled to keep up. The message, regardless of tongue, was simple. "Panic. Can we negotiate?" asked a delegate from the Peaceful Stars Accord. "Perhaps offer them tribute or diplomatic passage?" "Surrender to what?" barked a Durakan war chief. "We don't even know their demands. They might come to harvest worlds, enslave populations, or worse." "Can we fight it?" asked someone near the back. Gorval's expression darkened. "Our entire armada numbers over 10,000 ships. This vessel's shields alone output more energy than a fleet group. If we engage, we'll lose, instantly." "Then we flee," Isaria said gravely. "We evacuate systems in its path and pray it passes through without notice." But they'll find us eventually, whispered Premier Jolin. If they built one, they can build more. Silence. For millennia, the Assembly had thrived on diplomacy, scientific exchange, and peacekeeping. Their fleets were geared for research and exploration, not war. No one had anticipated a civilization capable of such devastating engineering. How long before it reaches our territories? Tharnes asked. Gorval consulted his tactical console. 72 standard hours. It's heading straight for Virel. 9, one of our core homeworlds. My people, gasped Premier Jolin. What will become of them? No one could answer. Meanwhile, aboard the warship Arclight, Commander Elias Ward stood on the vast command deck. The ship's bridge stretched wider than a football field, filled with tech crews, officers, and glowing control stations. Light from distant stars filtered through the panoramic viewports, reflecting off polished metal surfaces. All systems nominal, called Chief Engineer Morgan Riley from his console. Reactors stable, FTL drive standing by. Elias nodded, turning toward the main screen which displayed a view of Earth, his homeworld, distant now but ever present in his thoughts. The Arclight was humanity's crowning achievement, a ship so massive it could carry an entire city, bristling with weapons and technology generations ahead of their nearest Earth-based counterparts. Communications, Elias said. Any message? From command? Lieutenant Brianna Vasquez tapped her panel. Admiral Tyron is ready, sir. Awaiting your word to begin the mission. Elias breathed deeply. This ship had taken nearly a decade to build, drawing resources from every Terran colony and orbital station. Its 50,000 crew members were Earth's finest scientists, soldiers, diplomats, and engineers. This wasn't just an expedition. This was first contact, or if it came to it, last contact. On screen, he ordered. The image shifted to Admiral Tyron's stern visage. His dark skin and silver beard framed eyes that had seen too many battles. Commander Ward, he said, how does it feel to lead humanity's most powerful ship into the unknown? Like the weight of 1,000 worlds, Admiral, Elias replied. Let's hope we're not too late for peace. That's why we built the Arclight, Tyron answered. Not to conquer, but to survive. They both knew the risks. No one knew what lay beyond the explored systems. For all their advances, humanity was still young in the galactic timeline. The Arclight had been built not out of arrogance, but out of caution. Elias turned to his science officer, Dr. Hannah Elkhoury. Report on the Virel system? She pushed her glasses up her nose. Multiple signs of intelligent life cities. Satellites, radio silence. But no known species encountered before. Elias's heart quickened. Navigator Lee, plot a course. Dr. Elkhoury, prepare first contact protocols. Let's go introduce ourselves. Aye, Commander. Engage the drive. In a flash of folded space and roaring gravity fields, Arclight surged into hyperspace. Humanity's message to the galaxy. We are here. The Arclight dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Virel system, accompanied by a silent ripple of distorted starlight. Commander Elias Ward steadied himself as the artificial gravity systems adjusted. Though the journey had taken just over 6 hours, the sensation of transition still left his bones buzzing. Jump complete, announced Navigator June Lee from her console. All systems stable. We've arrived at the Virel system. Elias rose from his command chair and approached the massive viewing screen. Ahead, a yellow main sequence star gleamed with quiet power, surrounded by a scattering of planets. Several worlds sparkled with blue and green signs of liquid water, atmosphere, possibly life. Satellites and what appeared to be orbital stations drifted in the void. Dr. Elkhoury, Elias called. What do you see? The science officer scanned her readings, her voice trembling slightly with excitement. Multiple signs of habitation. At least 3 planets with developed ecosystems. detecting fusion-based energy signatures, orbital mining operations, and gravity manipulation tech. There are at least 12 distinct spacefaring civilizations here, Elias blinked. 12? In one system? That's what the data says. She replied, their tech levels are highly advanced. FTL communication grids. Sophisticated power systems. But what? There's no chatter, she said, no communication signals. It's completely silent. Vasquez turned from the communications array. Confirmed, sir. No transmissions, no data. Bursts, no pulses, nothing. I've cycled through every known frequency and even scanned for quantum entanglement packets. Not even a background hum. That's not right, Elias muttered. A system with 12 advanced species should be saturated with noise. Could be using an exotic cum system, El-Kawuri offered. Or they've noticed. US and gone dark, Elias finished. Lee, set a course for the most populated world. Let's get their attention. The Arclight's thrusters flared to life as the ship moved into the system. It passed orbital debris and dormant satellites objects that had clearly once served a purpose, but now floated lifeless. As the vessel continued deeper, sensors pinged furiously. "Commander," said Tech Officer Devon NG, his fingers dancing across holographic panels. "I'm detecting thousands of vessels scattered throughout the system, but they're all offline." Offline? No propulsion, no shields, no active systems, just dark hulls. Elias frowned. "Every single one? Looks that way, sir." "That's not a coincidence," El-Kawuri said quietly. "It's like they all shut down at once. Or were told to shut down." The Arclight approached the largest inhabited planet, Virel Prime. Cities glittered across the continents. Towers pierced the clouds, glowing with cold luminescence. The world was unmistakably alive with civilization, yet not a single craft moved in the skies. No shuttles, no orbit-to-surface traffic. Just stillness. Distance to surface? Elias asked. 50,000 kilometers, Lee replied. "We should be plainly visible by now." "Still no contact," Vasquez reported. "We've transmitted. Greetings, mathematical sequences, prime numbers, binary star maps, no response." "Too quiet," Elias muttered. "Every movie I grew up on either had aliens fire on sight or open a dialogue. This feels worse." "I suggest a soft approach," said First Contact Specialist Dr. Isolde Tanaka, stepping forward from the rear of the bridge. "A single shuttle, lower tech, low threat. Maybe that will encourage a response." Elias nodded. "Agreed." "Commander." "Felix and Ambassador Malin, you're up. Take Shuttle 1. Deploy all non-hostile signals. Avoid aggressive maneuvers." "Aye, sir," said Commander Jonah Felix. He turned to Malin Voris, Earth's highest-ranking interstellar envoy, who was already gathering her diplomatic packet. The shuttle detached from the Arclight with a gentle hiss of pressurized air, descending slowly toward the surface. It looked like a spark floating away from a star, a tiny vessel dwarfed by the colossal warship, hanging ominously in orbit. Inside the alien planet's command bunker, Prime Chancellor Revek stared at the holographic display in horror. Is that a launch bay opening?" "Yes, sir," confirmed General Varnak, his uniform wrinkled and damp from the fevered evacuation. "They've deployed a craft, single small vessel. Possibly a scout. Status of civilian evacuation?" 85% underground, said Chief Coordinator Solari. "But we only have enough supplies for 6 standard days." Revik clenched his claws. "Any response from the other worlds?" "The Kalari have submerged their cloud cities. The Veshlari have sealed their subhives. The mining colonies are dark pretending to be derelict. And the Assembly, monitoring. But they've already stated no military aid will come. That ship is beyond any known threat profile. It could end all life in this system in hours." On the screen, the alien shuttle descended slowly, deliberately. It made no hostile maneuvers, deployed no weapons. It looked almost tentative. Not an attack pattern, murmured Vardak. It's too cautious. No escorts, no drones, no shielding. They're trying to look harmless. Could be a trick, Revek replied bitterly, softening us before the real attack. Below them, cities lay frozen in eerie calm. Millions of Varelians had retreated beneath the surface. In one such shelter, children clung to their caretakers. Ancient myths were whispered like prayers, of invaders from the stars, devourers of life, gods in metal skins. On board the shuttle, Jonah Felix piloted smoothly through the atmosphere. The sky was clear, the land below lush and urbanized. Ambassador Malin stared at the silent skyline. It's like a ghost city, she whispered. No vehicles, no pedestrians, no signals. They're watching us, somewhere. Felix nodded, probably waiting to see what we do. Back aboard the Arclight, Elias crossed his arms, tension climbing. Boost the greeting signal, every frequency, max power. Let's make sure they know we're here for peace. Devon NG adjusted the transmission gain. Transmitting now. The Arclight's communication suite roared to life, blanketing the region in amplified energy. On the surface, thousands of alien devices flickered, overloaded by the sheer force of the broadcast. Screens went black. Personal devices failed. Even streetlights dimmed dot in the Varelian command center. Lights flickered, systems glitched, and consoles rebooted in rapid succession. They shut down our grid. With a greeting, Varnak gasped. This is no transmission. It's a demonstration of dominance. No, Solari said slowly, eyes locked on her screen. Look at the data. Prime numbers. Basic geometry. Pictographs of their kind. They're trying to communicate. Revek stared in disbelief. Are they afraid of us? Not afraid, said Solari. Cautious. They sent a small vessel. Despite having the means to destroy us from orbit, they're reaching out. Still, Varnak growled, no peaceful. People needs a ship that size. Revek remained silent, watching the tiny shuttle continue its descent harmless in form, yet backed by a ship large enough to blot out constellations. Continue monitoring, he said. If they want peace, we'll give them a chance to prove it. The shuttle glided down through the atmosphere, its soft blue thrusters leaving barely a ripple in the thick clouds. Commander Jonah Felix guided the vessel toward a vast stone plaza at the heart of Varel Prime's capital city. Around them, the alien metropolis loomed. Its towers were elegant spirals, their surfaces etched with shifting patterns that shimmered like living art. But the silence was absolute. No drones buzzed overhead. No pedestrians walked the wide streets. Ambassador Voris, are you seeing this? Jonah asked as he adjusted their descent vector. Malin Voris, seated beside him in her crisp white diplomatic suit, nodded gravely. It's beautiful, and utterly deserted. There's no movement at all. It's as if the entire population has vanished. Either they're hiding. Jonah began. Or they've gone underground, she finished. Scared of us. Back. Aboard the Arclight, Commander Elias Ward stood tensely in front of the main screen, which showed a high-resolution feed from the shuttle. Every detail of the alien world was visible. Elaborate cityscapes, complex power grids, and eerily dark windows. Tech Officer Devon G was furiously recalibrating the signal burst to avoid overwhelming more of the planet's infrastructure. Sir, Devon reported, we're still not receiving any replies. Nothing active in the planet's communication bands. Either they're using a tech we don't understand, or they've shut everything down intentionally. Keep monitoring, Elias said, and prepare an emergency retrieval plan if we lose contact. On the surface, the shuttle touched down with barely a whisper, landing in the center of the plaza. Jonah and Malin donned their environmental suits and stepped into the unknown. Their boots clicked gently on the smooth alien stone. and the sounds echoed far too loudly in the lifeless stillness. The plaza was surrounded by elegant structures, governmental buildings, perhaps decorated with arching pillars and graceful, looping architecture. But the entrances were sealed, and not a single window glowed with power or movement. "This doesn't feel like a trap," Jonah murmured. "No," Malin agreed. "It feels like a misunderstanding. They think we're here to destroy them." Beneath the surface of Virel Prime, deep in the command center of the capital, Prime Chancellor Rivek watched every move the humans made. The image of Malin stepping onto their soil played across the main monitor. "She's small," General Varnak observed. "No armor, light body mass. Breathing a different atmosphere." Sensor Chief Solari examined her instruments. "Sir, that suit is not military. It's environmental protection. And their movements are cautious, not aggressive. She's walking as if she's hoping someone will answer." "She's looking for a way in," Varnak warned. "Probably to override our systems." "Wait," Solari interrupted, her many eyes widening. "She's interfacing with one of our terminals." The alien console Malin approached was set into the outer wall of a tall spire, its surface blinking faintly with residual energy. The symbols etched into the panel were indecipherable, but its function was familiar, likely a public interface, like an information kiosk. "I'm going to try the translator," she said into her com. Initiating universal contact sequence. She connected the translation device to the panel, and the compact unit began pulsing soft green as it sent out signals, prime numbers, geometric shapes, fractals, and other mathematically universal data. In the command bunker, the terminal lit up. "It's accessing our system," shouted one of the aides. "No," Solari said, her voice calm now. "Look at what it's sending, sequences, not code. It's not a virus or override attempt. It's communication." Revik stared in disbelief as the symbols scrolled across the screen. Mathematics, art, music. Then came an image, a blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. A solar system, unfamiliar but unmistakably real. Then came the images of humans, bipedal, small, smooth-skinned. Open hands, flowers, peace symbols. The humans were trying to introduce themselves. "They're talking to us," Revik whispered. Back aboard the Arclight, Elias paced slowly behind the bridge crew, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. "Are we getting anything back yet?" "Not yet," Devon replied. "But they're receiving our messages. At least some of their networks are still partially operational." "Sir," Dr. Okori said from her console, "I recommend we broadcast a visual message. Simplified visuals, basic language patterns, a more obvious demonstration of peaceful intent." "Do it," Elias said. "Let's show them who we are." Moments later, the Arclight began transmitting a looping signal in a dozen electromagnetic formats. It showed images of Earth, a star map of the Sol system, then humans smiling, waving, exchanging gifts, exploring space. Peaceful intent wrapped in universal mathematics. On the surface, Malin watched as the alien terminal blinked to life. A synthetic voice emerged, shaky and layered with multiple tones. "Greetings, visitor," it said. Then, a pause. "We are the Virelians. We see you. We misunderstood. You came not for war, but for peace." Malin's breath caught in her throat. "This is Ambassador Malin Voris of Earth. Yes, we come in peace. We want to understand you. We want to learn." In the Virelian command center, Rivik sat down hard in his chair, stunned. "It's true," Solari said. "They're not here to conquer us. They came all this way to say hello. But their ship," Varnak began. Was built because they're alone," Solari interrupted. "Look at their signal. There are no other intelligent civilizations in their star system. They had no idea what they would find when they left their world." Revik looked at the massive vessel orbiting above their sky, the shadow it cast stretching for kilometers. It was terrifying, yes, but now he understood. They built it because they were scared, he said softly. Not because they wanted to dominate, because they feared what they might find in the dark. A quiet hush fell over the Varelian command center. Dozens of staff, military officers, scientists, and advisors all stared at the screen where Malin Voris was now engaged in cautious but meaningful contact with their world. Her soft voice, translated and filtered, filled the room. We come from a distant star system. We have no colonies beyond our own solar neighborhood. This is our first journey beyond the edges of our charted space. We mean no harm. General Varnak, who had spent the last 20 hours preparing contingency plans for total planetary warfare, stood in stunned silence. They came because they were curious. Chancellor Revik let out a slow breath and nodded. And because they were afraid. Think about it, no allies, no knowledge of what lay beyond their sky. They did what any species would do when faced with uncertainty. They overprepared. Sensor Chief Salari highlighted new readings on her console. And it's not just the Ambassador. Their mothership, the Arclight, is broadcasting peaceful imagery and encoded concepts, mathematics, music, philosophy. They're practically screaming, "We don't want to fight." The room was silent for a beat longer, then Revik stood. "Prepare a full diplomatic relay. I want to speak to their leader." Up above, in orbit, the Arclight's bridge lit up. With an incoming signal, "Sir," Lieutenant Vasquez called out, her voice shaking with excitement. "We're receiving a reply from the planet. Real-time transmission. They're answering." Eliz Ward's hands fell to his sides, his knuckles white from gripping the chair. He stepped toward the screen as the image resolved. On the screen, Chancellor Revik appeared, a bipedal creature covered in mossy green scales with thoughtful eyes and ceremonial robes woven with metallic thread. Commander Elias Ward came. The translated voice. "I am Chancellor Revik of the Varelian Sovereignty. We owe you an apology." Elias blinked. "An apology?" Revik offered a gesture, half bow, half salute. "We thought you were monsters, conquerors, destroyers from the edge of reality. We mistook your caution for aggression." "That's understandable," Elias replied. "Your silence made us nervous too. But we came here to learn not to harm. Earth has always looked up at the stars and wondered who else was out here." Revik nodded slowly. "Then allow us to be the first to say, welcome. And thank you for not firing first." Laughter rippled lightly across the Arclight's bridge. Tension that had coiled tight for hours began to unwind. Officers leaned back in their chairs. Crew members exhaled as if they'd been holding their breath since orbit. Ambassador Malin Voris still stood on the plaza, now surrounded by holographic screens projected by Varelian drones. Peaceful music, flowing lights, and tentative data exchanges began to cross the cultural gap. A group of cautious but curious Varelian officials emerged from one of the nearby buildings, slowly approaching her. She lifted her helmet and smiled. "I'm honored to meet you," she said. Deep underground, Revik watched her carefully and then turned to his advisors. "This changes everything. They're not just a threat, they're an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" Varnak asked cautiously. "For friendship," Revik said, "and possibly protection." Salari perked up. "Protection?" Revik nodded. "Think about it. If humanity, a single species civilization with no interstellar allies, could build that ship, what happens when they decide to work with others? We may have feared the Arclight, but others, less reasonable civilizations, might fear it even more." "You mean they're powerful enough to deter galactic threats?" Varnak said slowly. "Exactly," Revik replied. "And now there are allies." As news of the successful contact reached the other planets of the system, messages of cautious optimism began to circulate through the dormant networks. The Kaleri activated their cloud relays. The Veshlari began to emerge from their underground bunkers. Mining colonies sent back encrypted pings, tentative but hopeful. Back in orbit, the Arclight science teams began receiving reams of alien data language primers, chemical blueprints, cultural summaries. In return, they sent Earth's most peaceful accomplishments: music, art, medical breakthroughs, environmental recovery programs. This could be the beginning of a new age, Dr. El-Kawuri said, watching the steady data exchange on her monitors. A peaceful interstellar partnership, knowledge, trade, growth. Commander Elias Ward didn't say anything right away. He was staring at the distant planet, now no longer silent or cold, but quietly alive with light and possibility. It started with a misunderstanding, he said softly. But maybe that's how all the best stories begin. Ambassador Malin returned to the shuttle hours later, carrying with her the first physical gift from an alien civilization, a crystalline cube containing a detailed, holographic history of Varelian culture. She handed it to Jonah Felix with a grin. Looks like we made new friends. Felix looked out the cockpit window at the city below. Not bad for a first contact mission. When the shuttle redocked with the Arclight, cheers echoed through the decks. All 50,000 crew members had been watching, listening, hoping. For once, they weren't returning with damage reports or casualties. They were bringing home peace. In the days that followed, diplomatic relays were established. The Galactic Assembly, still shaken by their initial fear, quickly pivoted, now eager to reach out. Dozens of other civilizations took notice of humanity's arrival. Some still watched with caution. Others began to draft their own messages of welcome. Elias Ward received a formal communique from the Assembly itself, a recognition of Earth as a legitimate interstellar participant and a request to send representatives to the next convocation. You realize what this means? Vasquez said as she handed him the message. We're not alone anymore, Elias replied. We never were. We just didn't know where to look. And so, the Arclight remained in orbit for a time, not as a conqueror, but as a monument. To curiosity, to caution, to the staggering bravery it took for one small species to venture alone into the galaxy, not with guns blazing, but with open hands and hopeful hearts. They hadn't come to dominate. They had come to explore. And the galaxy, at last, had answered.